Imagine a world where the dominant species isn't us, Homo sapiens, but Neanderthals. This alternate reality would present an entirely different version of history, culture, and the development of life on Earth. Neanderthals, though close relatives of modern humans, had their own distinct characteristics, behaviors, and way of interacting with the world. But what if they had emerged as the dominant species instead of us? How might civilization have unfolded? Let's start with who the Neanderthals were. They evolved in Europe and parts of Western Asia about 400,000 years ago, adapting to colder climates with robust muscular bodies. Their skulls were different from ours, larger with a pronounced brow ridge and a different brain structure. Despite these differences, they weren't as primitive as we once thought. Neanderthals had a culture, used tools, made art, and buried their dead. In fact, research suggests that their brain size was comparable to, and sometimes larger than, modern humans. In this alternate world, where Neanderthals outcompeted or coexisted alongside other hominins, including Homo sapiens, it's likely that evolution would have followed a distinct path. One of the first major differences we'd see is in the structure of society. Neanderthals lived in smaller, tighter-knit groups than early Homo sapiens did, and their social structures may have revolved around family or clan units. This means that large, expansive civilizations, as we know them, might never have developed in the same way. Instead, society could have remained decentralized, with smaller, isolated communities working together for survival. This decentralized structure might change how political systems developed. Instead of vast empires and nation-states, we might see confederations of tribes with power more evenly distributed among localized groups. Leadership might be more collective, focusing on cooperation and group consensus, rather than hierarchical power structures. The dominance of this structure could have reshaped the way humans interacted across continents, with conflict being less frequent or less destructive compared to the wars that have shaped human history. On the other hand, Neanderthals were highly adapted to their environment, particularly in terms of survival skills. They knew how to live in harsh, cold conditions, and their communities revolved around hunting, tool-making, and shelter building. In a world led by Neanderthals, technological advancement might be slower or take different forms. Whereas Homo sapiens developed agriculture, writing, and complex architecture relatively quickly, Neanderthals may have taken longer to progress beyond basic tools and simple shelters. The Neolithic revolution, the shift from hunting and gathering to agriculture, might have been delayed or looked very different, but don't mistake this slower pace for a lack of intelligence. Neanderthals were highly intelligent, but their focus may have been different. Instead of rapid technological advancement, their culture might have emphasized harmony with nature. Their existence as hunter-gatherers meant they understood the balance of ecosystems. It's possible that in this world they would have developed a more sustainable relationship with the Earth, rather than the rapid industrialization that characterizes modern human history. We might see a society that places a greater emphasis on living within the planet's natural limits. In terms of communication, language might be vastly different as well. We know Neanderthals had the physical capability for speech, but it's debated how complex their language was. If they became the dominant species, language could have evolved into something more visual or symbolic, relying on gestures, body language, and perhaps even a more communal form of communication. Art, already present in Neanderthal life, might take on even more significance. They were known to create symbolic objects in cave paintings, so it's possible that art could play a central role in their culture, serving as a universal language of sorts. Storytelling, oral traditions, and visual expression might have taken the place of written words, giving us a world rich in visual narratives and history passed down through artistic means. The human world has been shaped by exploration, colonization, and the desire to dominate new lands. Would a Neanderthal-led world have seen the same level of expansion? It's possible, but with smaller, more cooperative groups, there might have been less incentive to conquer new territories. Instead, we might see a planet where humans remained in closer proximity to their ancestral lands, perhaps never spreading across every continent as Homo sapiens did. Europe and parts of Asia might remain the heart of Neanderthal civilization, with new cultures and ideas developing more locally, leading to a world with far more diverse, independent regions. The pace of technological and cultural development in a Neanderthal-dominated world could have profound effects on science and philosophy. Would space exploration, for example, be as advanced? Perhaps not. Without the same drive for discovery, Neanderthals may have taken longer to understand and harness the forces of nature. This doesn't mean they wouldn't have made remarkable achievements, just that the priorities might have been different. Instead of building machines to conquer the environment, they may have sought ways to live more in tune with it, leading to advances in ecological science and sustainability that could outshine modern human progress in those areas. Even the concept of civilization itself could differ. The Homo sapiens version of civilization is based on competition, hierarchies, and resource accumulation. Neanderthals, however, might have pursued a model centered around community well-being and environmental stewardship. Imagine a world where instead of massive cities, we see smaller, interconnected villages that cooperate in trading and sharing resources, all while maintaining harmony with the surrounding landscape. Perhaps the natural world would be more preserved, less marred by pollution and industrial sprawl. Climate change, as we know it, might be non-existent in this world, given the potential for a society that doesn't depend on overexploitation of natural resources. Religion and spirituality might also evolve differently. Early human spirituality is closely tied to agriculture and natural cycles. A Neanderthal world might continue this tradition, but without the same rapid shift to city building and technological dominance. They may have developed a deeper reverence for the earth, animals, and ancestors. Spirituality could be more animistic, focusing on the interconnectedness of all life rather than worshipping abstract deities. Rituals centered around death, birth, and the cycles of nature might be core aspects of their culture. Neanderthals already buried their dead with care, suggesting they had some belief in an afterlife or spiritual realm, which might have led to a rich, evolving tapestry of beliefs across different tribes and regions. Now, what about interspecies relationships? In this world, Homo sapiens might still exist, but as a secondary species, perhaps living in a state of coexistence or subjugation under Neanderthal rule. The dynamics of this relationship would likely be complex. Homo sapiens may have developed their own smaller societies, interacting and even interbreeding with Neanderthals, much like they did historically. But in this alternate scenario, the power imbalance would be reversed, with Neanderthals potentially shaping the future of both species in a way that led to collaboration or possibly even conflict. In terms of human nature, the question is, would this Neanderthal-dominant world be more peaceful, or just different in its approach to conflict? Homo sapiens, driven by competition, expansion, and often violence, have shaped history through conquest and war. Neanderthals, with their more communal, cooperative tendencies, might have fostered societies that were less warlike, but not without conflict. However, rather than wars of domination, disputes might be resolved through ritual, negotiation, or smaller-scale skirmishes. This doesn't mean utopia, but perhaps a less destructive path. Ultimately, a Neanderthal-dominated world would be different from the one we know, but not necessarily worse or less advanced. It would have its own unique challenges, triumphs, and ways of life. We might see a world that developed more slowly but placed greater emphasis on community, sustainability, and the interconnectedness of life on Earth. It's a reminder that human evolution could have taken many paths, and each path would lead to a world shaped by different values, technologies, and relationships with the planet. So while we may never know exactly what a Neanderthal world would look like, imagining it gives us a glimpse of how diverse human existence could have been and perhaps challenges us to rethink the path Homo sapiens have taken to get where we are today.